Afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to TPL Thursdays, the weekly webinar series on teacher professional learning from the Education Authority. As always, welcome. A little bit of housekeeping. First of all, we're Microsoft Teams, so because of the numbers we usually get at these sessions, I have got everybody's microphone and camera off. But what we do like to do is, if you have any questions that you would like to ask the presenters, please put those in the chat and we will have a question and answer session towards the end of the allotted time. As always, if anybody has any suggestions for future sessions, I would really like to hear those. So if you put it on the feedback form, email me, or even put it in the chat today, I can see about getting that for you. And I'm always on the lookout for presenters. So if you fancy yourself that you've got something that you do in school that you're really happy with and you want to share that, please come forward. It isn't as intimidating as it seems, and I can get you a day's cover to prepare for it. So that's always useful in these sort of stricken times. We do engage on Twitter. My Twitter was down last week for some reason, but the hashtag TPL Thursdays on Twitter. So it's a good way to get yourself on Twitter and get connected with people within the Northern Ireland education scene. Today's session is on positive behaviour strategies, and we've got Alison Perry and Grania Dobbs from the EA Behaviour Support Team. And this presentation is going to be about research-based strategies that have been proven to work, and a lot of it you'll find that you've heard of or you've seen before, but it's really to refresh that stuff and to show you really at the cutting edge of what the research is saying. So Grania, are you ready to go with Alison?
Yes.
That delay really had my heart going there. So welcome. Are you able to share the presentation and everything?
Yes, I hijacked it earlier there, if you noticed, Charlotte, to see if it was working in case.
I was very, very pleased to see that, but sometimes, you know, I had one of these sessions where somebody's school Wi-Fi went out at about 12 o'clock because of a storm, and they had to present this off an iPhone, and I had the presentation here. So it was that next slide, please, you know, that we could use during the pandemic, but they were sitting with an... So that's great. Thank you very much for doing this session again, and hopefully everybody can get something out of it. And as I said, questions at the end, and I'll put the presentation in. And this session will be on YouTube, on the YouTube channel that we have. And I will also share the slides with attendees. So thanks once again for doing this, and I will shush now and let you take over.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Well, I suppose I'll start with some introductions because Grania's going to kick us off with a wee bit of training today. So I'm Alison Perry, and I joined the EA last year. Before that, I was 20 years in teaching, and I was head of a large learning support centre in an all-boys school in North Belfast. So not without its challenges. But in that role, obviously, you know, from the school perspective, realising that times have changed, that behaviour has changed, that requirements of schools have changed, the flexibility of schools and the creativeness and trying to resource schools to deal with behaviour. So coming into this role, there's quite a wee bit of change going on. I am keen to be part of it, and part of this training session today was, as Charlotte said, trying to find evidence-based research that can be carried through into schools and then cascaded down among staff. So that will be what we'll hope to deliver today. Grania, I'll hand over to you then.
Okay, so I'm Grania Dobbs, and I joined the EA probably about 12 years ago. Originally a teacher trained as well and taught in mainstream and in a specialist setting as well for years. And then I joined the autism service. And more recently, over the last 18 months, I joined then behaviour support. So yes, as Alison says, we're in that process of change at the minute. So it's exciting times every day when we go to work, to open the emails to see what possible new things are being presented today. So I suppose the needs in what we have identified in schools are increasing with less and less resources, let's be honest, for all of us, whether we're within EA services or within schools. We're facing a tight budget all of the time. So I suppose just to kind of kick off today, we said that we would look at some kind of objectives for you and see what were the learning intentions that we'd be looking at today. So really we want to look at looking at the evidence-based practice that's out there, but trying to keep it pretty relevant for over the last kind of 5 years as much as possible, because we felt that that would be more in keeping with the profile of young people that we're witnessing and experiencing every day within schools. Then we also want to look at really taking that into the classroom and seeing what is it exactly that would be useful to help within the classroom setting, within the wider school environment, to actually have some practical tips and strategies and to refresh our minds and memory of what we possibly have let slide because things were going well at times as well. We'll also look and we'll give you the opportunity whenever you look at the wee checklist that is being developed about what's working and not working. So what is working currently within your setting and what's not working, and try and increase the likelihood of that positive behaviour within your classroom settings as well. So I suppose one of the pieces of research that we started to look at was really looking at the research over the last 5 years was this EF, Improving Schools, Improving Behaviour in Schools in 2019. So we can see it's a pretty recent document. It was completed with teachers and academics. It went through a lot of stringent kind of a peer review to make sure that it was fit for purpose, as opposed to putting a document out there that someone has read and said that that would work. So it's went through a lot of literature. There's a good literature review in it as well, and it looked at all practices based on the evidence. So it's not hearsay. So it's all proven research that it works well within your classroom settings. And as a result of that, the literature review and the outcomes of then the findings, they created recommendations, and there were 6 recommendations that they suggested that were the main ones that they would be recommending for schools and teachers to look at. So they created like wee bookmarks that Alison's going to take you through now, but they had it was suggested that you could use these as bookmarks. Whether you prefer to or not is your own preference. But they also have created like posters that you can put up to have a glance at. We have also created like a wee checklist that takes all of these pieces of these key strategies as well, or recommendations, and created the checklist for you so that you can use them within your classroom settings as well to see.
Yeah, thank you, Grania. I've put this actually on a bit of a bigger screen. You can see there that it's you can access that actually through their website. And I mean, I'm not going to go over it today because it's it's sort of self-explanatory. But I suppose the reasoning for us looking into the Education Endowment Foundation's resources was basically that in our roles as teachers, senior teachers, principals, whatever the role might be in school, you know, it goes along with that theory as in you're only as strong as your weakest link, and due to high turnover of staff, the amount of different people working with individual children, it's trying to get everybody in the school basis singing from the same hymn sheet, because no matter how good the theories might be, if everybody's not involved, it can become very difficult. So trying to find research that could be used by everybody, no matter what their role in school would be, even including those people who are in a temporary basis in the school basis as an outreach workers, or even, you know, sub teachers, whether it be short-term sub, long-term sub. So this is part of it as well. As I say, this is just very easy read review that can be downloaded and used. I'm going to take that away now, and then back to my PowerPoint. So yeah, so the recommendations that they had, as I say, I've just pulled that up in larger format there. You can see that there are 6 main things. The first one, obviously, to know and understand your pupils and their influences. learning behaviours alongside managing misbehaviour. So that theory that behaviour is taught, and to try and model that for our students. Our classroom management strategies to support good behaviour, simple approaches, targeted approaches to meet individual needs in school, and consistency. And I know that we all have heard all these things before, and so I'm not going to go into them in a lot of detail, but I suppose just again, to reiterate that although we all know that, how do we ensure that everybody's doing that? And so, yes, we have our behaviour policies. We can only hope that people are reading through those. We can only hope that teachers are reading some of the invaluable research out there. But in reality, it's a busy job, and you never get a minute. And therefore, sometimes the bedside reading mightn't necessarily happen. And this is the idea of what is the checklist then. So things that are pulled from that is, you'll see that there's different things that go under that. So the subheadings with regards to all of those different recommendations about how to know your pupils. That is research based, that relationships are key, that if you know your pupils well, then this can have an impact on classroom behaviour. Also saying that, simple approaches as part of regular routine, as in greeting children at the door of the classroom, trying to be positive, and try and be interested in individuals is evidence-based, that it can have great success. Again, giving compliments, positive rewards, approval, and even body language and all of that, it's all listed in that. Using targeted approaches for individuals in your school, positive responses, encouraging behaviours, encouraging language. So there's volumes and volumes of information, and the main one that keeps reoccurring through all of the research, and this is from the SEN resource file, it's from different guidance from legislation, they all basically sort of mirror each other, and the main one that I would say is consistency is key. The whole idea of a checklist is that it can be consistent. It can be adapted according to your school, it can be adapted even departmentally, but consistency is definitely key. Because that is the basis, that the routine that the children will thrive on. So some of this, you'll see even taken from, the social emotional behaviour wellbeing, the guidance, that you'll see that mirrors it as well, and you'll see in columns and in the brackets after, you've got 4 and 1 and 4 and 4. These are all, as I was reading through all this research with a colleague, you realise this is quite repetitive. It's been said before, and the thing is, it is research based, so it does work. It's been said before, why is it not working? And very often it's because everybody has a different teaching style, or everybody has a different sort of view on it. And a lot of the time the research showed that when everybody was consistent in their approach, then there was results. So again, just what we did whenever we put together this checklist, now don't worry, it goes into more detail, but in order to make it sort of quite simplified, would you obviously use an acronym? Everybody needs some way of remembering, and teachers and staff are no different. So simple things like on entrance to the classroom, when we had our meet and greet and what we did for a welcome, our body language about knowing children individually, knowing what did they do last night, have you an interest in them to make them feel valued, along with safety and structure and routine. The next bit then that we had was, when they're on task, there was some tips and clues. And in the checklist, it goes into a wee bit more detail. But, the organisation, about that they know exactly what it is that they have to do. They're given notice to do it. They know their timings, what exactly the task is. And very often we take it for granted, because we all imagine we're amazing teachers. We take it for granted when we deliver our lesson that everybody knows what they're doing. But sometimes due to processing, learning needs, what's going on individually with children in the class, they do miss clues, they do miss what's going on. And so therefore it's trying to sort of take that on board as well. And the last one then, is that if we are even given a spectacular lesson, everything's going well, there will sometimes be behavioural issues that will crop up. And so there is reference to that in the checklist too. It's about keeping your classroom management consistent, about trying to deal with any behavioural things as they arise, and other wee strategies and tips. And then the last bit is your class dismissal or close. So if when the class is going, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of that, because they're leaving to go to somebody else. So the exit from the room is almost as important as the entrance. So the checklist, just to give you an idea, it doesn't look like this anymore. I will share it with you and I can pass it on if it's of any use. But whenever we were putting this together, you're not expected to read this, by the way, because it's quite small. But you'll see from that all of the highlighted sections are taken from different research. So, for example, the blue is from the first file. And it has some great tips in there. And then the green is from trauma-informed practice and different research. Yellow is the AAF guidance, and then the pink there is from the GTCNI. So, I mean, it wasn't something that we sat down and just thought, I've got some whimsical ideas, we'll throw it together in a checklist. It was researched, heavily researched, to try and put this together. Sorry. There you are. There. So I'm going to stop sharing this because I want to actually show you what it will look like, and if it's of any use to say, if you request it, we can forward that to you. Share screen again. I'm actually feeling really proud of myself. I feel like a bit of a technical whiz at the moment. Yeah, here we are. Okay, so as you can see, it's just simply not as it was presented there. You've got, the welcome class. So remember, by my class, the meet and greet and indicators of what would be a good meet and greet. So arrive on time to class, how to receive your pupils, having a functional classroom. And it's just be things like that for us to bear in mind as teachers. So what is your greeting? Is it get in here, you're late, or is it good morning, good class, glad to meet you, or what is it? What sets the tone for your class? Your body language and how you're standing at the door. And I remember in my old role, sometimes I would stand at the door with 3 classroom assistants on one side, sweat bubbling from my forehead, class lining up. So I know those things, as I say, are things that we really have to try and do. But at the same time, we sometimes forget to look to see if we are doing them. And so these are just prompts. That's all they are. You're not, I suppose this checklist isn't to say, like, tick box for all of them, but it's certainly things, it's food for thought. And that's what it's meant to be. Again, knowing pupils about them can mean a lot. Learning their names, trying to sort of remember aspects of their interests, for example, football or the match last night or anything like that, and building your positive relationships with the kids and your structure and routine. I mean, with the best will in the world, I know we all want to do that, but it's no good that there's 2 teachers, that do that in the day and the rest don't bother, and or somebody else does it the odd time. It's just more or less, it's evidence-based that children respond to consistency and the value, and they have an expectation then that builds. Same thing then with that goes on to do with on task. How do you maybe go about organisation of a lesson? Have a seating arrangement. Have you got a plan for your classroom assistant? How they're going to assist you? Do you know your kids well enough? Have you got a copy of their IEP or what's now the PLP? Are you aware of the targets? Do you know basically what any of the issues are? Have you updated yourself if there's been anything put on SIMS? Have you talked to the classroom assistant to maybe find why the form's not great when they arrive at your door? And again, that's something that, as I say, there's just prompts to remind people as in, well, this would be good practice. It's good practice to do this. And again, those things about your timing and your clarity and whatever. So this checklist is more or less that you could base training on to have a behavioural session within school. And as I say, the fact that it comes as something that people can take away and you can revisit and you can look at it, and it's just more or less without having to do the same sort of behavioural training over and over and over again with the repetitive thing over and over again. You would like to think that, look, we're going to introduce this and can we revisit it in a wee while to see if you picked up some of them strategies and what worked for you, or what works in our school, or is it relevant to my class or my department? And then again, the next bit, this is the bit, dealing with the unplanned. So when behaviour isn't as you expected, no matter how much your preparation was put into your lesson, do you know what a positive script is? what is the nurture sort of provision, or what would be is restorative practice going on in your schools? What is the policy for that? Giving choices to people. Are you de-escalated while you're dealing with a heightened child? So all of these things as well, and it's good to go over these and and plan for the unplanned. So as when it happens, it's something that's kind of ingrained, that you're stepping back and you're able to deal with it. And then there's sort of how your reactions to de-escalate and how you restore things, building on restorative practice, building on all of the sort of nurture ethos and things and research there. And then, as I said, the dismissal from class, that's not the end of it. You have to get them out the door. You have your conclusion about the lesson, and sometimes that's key as well. Well, what did you think went well in the lesson? And sometimes people's response can let you know how you've gauged your lesson. Has it been appropriate? If there was any behaviour issues, was it because of the content of the lesson and how the level was set? And then even the structured exit is accounted for there, as whenever they go out the door, are they going out calmly? Is there a routine for packing up? Because I know in my last role, the thing was always about standing at the door for the corridors, etc. And what time they were let, the really nice teacher who lets them go 4 minutes before the bell, and everybody else then it goes into chaos. So it's all about that. And then the evaluation, as in, to be a reflective practitioner, do we're very busy, we don't have time, but do we sometimes sit and think, that went well, that didn't go well, can I improve that? And I suppose this checklist is maybe just throwing that back to say, if you have this checklist and you're using that and you're sometimes maybe have a wee look at it yourself and throw it back upon yourself to see if there's anything that you feel that you would do better the next time, or you could change. As I say, we can send those on, and well, Charles just said that he will send it on, and it could be useful, as I said, and that's what the thing today was. It wasn't that Grania and I were going to sit here and say to you, here's behaviour, here's behaviour, here's behaviour, because I'm sure that it's something everybody's really familiar with. It was just to say, maybe this might be useful. It's something to put together, that it's not, it's all in one place. Grania, have you anything to add there? I know that you have a wee bit to add at the end of our QR code, but have you anything to add about that?
No, you're okay. Sorry, I was just in the middle of sending Jarlath the updated resources, the new QR codes. That's what I was at. Sorry, Alison. Okay,
no problem. Is there anybody who would have any questions about what we've said so far, or about the checklist, or even the research?
I don't think there's anyone yet. I just proved myself and Grania communicating in the background here that it may seem smooth at the front, but I'm frantically trying to upload things. I have put that research-based checklist now in the chat for anybody who wants it. I put it into my cloud, and the presentation is also available in there, and I've just uploaded the evaluation link. Has anybody got any questions before we go any further? No questions yet. You're getting off lightly.
Stunned them into silence, Charles. Stunned them. Don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
So if you just want to share the QR code.
Yeah. Want me to share that, Grania, or do you want to share that?
Yeah, I can share it, I think. Just trying to get it up here again. Oh, that was me being press happy. There we go. Oh.
I mean, from that as well, as I say, if there's even not any questions now, happy that Tom's even, if you go away and have a think about it or something, or there's something comes up, happy to answer questions then. So it's just basically more or less to hopefully pass it on and see if it would be any use.
That's really useful, and people can refer back to it as well. It's very handy that, you know, it's something that you could probably print out and have. Although I used to have so much on my notice board beside my my desk that it was ridiculous. But you know, you could have it beside your desk. You just remind yourself. And that one thing about the way classes leave was always something that, you know, as a post-primary practitioner, it was just bananas. You know, you could tell that somebody had let a class out early because we're standing outside your room 2 minutes early. And the devil finds work for idle hands, like, and you know, you're trying to finish your lesson properly, and this class are looking in the window and all this sort of stuff. But it is just those things that you're reminded of in your teaching practice. You know, get them in, get them settled, and the one thing that we get back from the pupil angle is that they always ask, does my teacher know me? Now in primary school, it's probably a little bit easier than it is in post-primary, but you know, taking a real interest in knowing those children, because then you can see, you know, you can see them coming in, you go, she's not herself today. And that knowledge of pupils really helps with behaviour and building up those relationships, certainly for people who are, you know, new in a school. And it can be very difficult in primary school because you're getting a fully new cohort every year. Whereas you have a mix and match in post-primary. So it can be difficult. Everybody, if you could fill in the evaluation link for me, because it's really handy that I can show my managers that this has an impact, and that people actually listen to it. But I see on my other screen somebody's just filled it in because it just changes live as I'm doing it. Thank you very much, Grania and Alison. That's brilliant. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me or the girls to ask questions, please do that. It's something that you always need reminded on, I think, about behaviour strategies. And as you say, I've got a book sitting beside my desk here that I haven't had a chance to look at for about 3 weeks, and it's really difficult to get your research done. And if the Education Endowment Foundation is a fantastic resource, if you go onto that website, there's so many things on it that are useful for, and it's all backed up by research. That's the thing. It's you know, you're not cutting it out of the back of the Irish News. It's something that's been sort of put into schools, that they've looked at it, they've evaluated it, and they've shared what works. So thank you very much to everybody. We are here again next week. I forgot to look what it is. I think it's primary school PE. But I will send the information out to everybody. Please fill in the evaluation. Grania and Alison, thank you very much. Hopefully I will see you face to face at some stage.
Yes.
Now that the pandemic is over, we hope.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
Thank you very much. And I will see everybody next week, or a lot of people. Thank you.
Thanks, Million. Bye-bye.